In Jack the Giant Slayer, an ancient war between humans and a race of giants is reignited when Jack, a young farmhand fighting for a kingdom and the love of a princess, opens a gateway between the two worlds.
Am I dead?
Not just yet.
What do you suppose is up there?
I never suppose, I simply prepare for everything.
I was not really looking forward to Jack the Giant Slayer because it looked very goofy, and I don't just mean in the story and the overall presentation, but the effects looked pretty bad. I mean, watching the trailer on my computer or in a theater, it looked like early 2000s CG for the Giants, and not so much the movement, because the movement looked alright, it was more the texture, like when it got close, when you see like the Giant's eye, it looks very cheap. So I didn't think I'd be able to buy it, and so I wasn't really expecting much from this movie, but it was not as bad as I expected in terms of presentation and in terms of CG. Sometimes it was bad. Like I said, the textures looked just crappy. It looked like an okay video game. But sometimes it looked okay. Legitimately, for the movie. So yeah, I was back and forth on that, but the problem is, because it kept fluctuating for me, I was a little distracted. Also, what fluctuated was the tone of the movie a bit. Sometimes it was really silly, like a giant farts at one point, and then sometimes I thought it was actually clever and fun. So yeah, the problem is I was distracted by all of this changing. Overall, I would say I think kids will love it, because it's almost like a kid version. It's like the Kids Bop Lord of the Rings. That's what it is, basically. And I guess you could say there's a little bit of Peter Jackson's King Kong thrown in there, too, because of the giants being so big. It kind of felt like they were on Skull Island for a little bit. But for me, who was not a child, I have to say it was just okay. Definitely nothing terrible, but kind of just awkward in spots to make it just okay. But let's get a little more into Jack the Giant Slayer, starting off with the plot, which I actually thought was kind of cool the way they did it. It's like a dark and gritty retelling of Jack and the Beanstalk, or Jack the Giant Killer. I think that's the original story's title, maybe not. And there are some little, like, nods to other aspects of the story that aren't brought up, like he sees a harp at one point. And I thought it was kind of cool how they presented it as a fairy tale that might have been true at one point, but it was presented as a fairy tale. It wasn't like the origin of the story. It was like the story happening again, sort of, kind of like a sequel in a way, I don't know, but I thought that was kind of interesting. As far as directing goes, I thought Bryan Singer did a good job for the most part, considering, like I said, I think it's good for kids. I think kids will love it because there's a real sense of adventure for kids, and also it's kind of brutal for kids. Some people get squished and knocked around and stuff like that, so I was surprised at the, not violence, but considering, like I said, I think it's really more for kids, I was not expecting to see so many people really just biting it. I really thought it was going to be kind of like implied, but people bite it. It doesn't really dwell on one section of the movie for too long, I think. It kind of just keeps chugging along. If anything, it almost felt like 3 different movies, like 3 different 30 or so minute movies in one. So that might be, like I said, a problem to sort of the fluctuation I felt in tone. Once again, my perfect example is that sometimes, you know, it was thrilling, and I actually was like, whoa, when there's a scene when giants, like, run out of the forest towards everybody, and I was like, holy shit, that's actually kind of freaky. But then in another scene, there was, like, a fart sound when a giant fell over or was sleeping or something like that. So it was really weird and, like I said, kind of awkward. And as for the CG, like I expected, some of it looked okay and some of it looked pretty bad. And I don't understand that, because the movie was actually delayed to fix the effects. And I don't know, I mean, I guess maybe they fixed them as best as they could, but really the problem is more in the close-ups, because the textures didn't look right. It looked like an okay video game, sort of. When it was further away, it actually looked better, because I guess it was mo-capped. It looked relatively realistic in the motion. And acting-wise, this is kind of interesting, but it almost felt like everybody was up on a stage putting on a show for kids. You know, it felt almost like storybook theater style. And yeah, that works, you know, for what the movie is worth. And once again, if it's more for kids, then they probably would love that. But it definitely felt a little weird sometimes. Not that everything else didn't feel weird. Like I said, the whole movie felt a little weird overall. I would say the most consistent people were Stanley Tucci. I thought he did a pretty good job. And also Eleanor Tomlinson and Ian McShane. I would say they were the most consistent. I didn't really see them fluctuating much Fluctuation is the word of the day, by the way. Nick Holt and Ewan McGregor, I like them a lot, but they were the ones I thought that were the weirdest in the movie. I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. Can't do it. But that whole sort of children's theater thing kind of fit. So, I mean, I guess it's not a problem. I'm just saying it's something I noticed. But I'm very curious to know what you thought of Jack the Giant Slayer, considering how weird I thought it was. I can't even fully explain what I think because it was just that bizarre. Definitely not bad, though. I definitely didn't think it was bad. I enjoyed myself. And I think if I was a kid, I would have been apeshit for it because it was kind of like a Kid's Bop Lord of the Rings. But let me know in the comments what you thought of Jack the Giant Slayer. How old are you? Are you 10? Did you love it? What do you think? Do you think it's for kids? Do you think it just seems like it's for kids because it was bad? I don't really know. Let me know what you thought of the CG. Did you think it was bad? Did you think it was good? Let me know what you thought of the acting. Let me know anything that you want about Jack the Giant Slayer. And that's pretty much it.
Who are you?
It's Jack! Ready?